I think we've got to work on improving our confidence, our trust and confidence. They are actually at very, very high standards, historically high standards, but that doesn't mean to say we should be complacent. So I think there is a job for us as leaders in the police service to get a message across and articulate it to the public, which is very positive and is about the strong performance of the service, about the level of ethical behaviour by the vast majority of police officers, and somehow start telling a story that is about a police service that is open to change, that is first and foremost there to protect the public, and actually I think tackle some of the misconceptions that have been allowed to develop over the last 15 months or so. And that's certainly what I'm intending to do while I remain as president of the association.
I think the police service over the next 12 months has to now kick on. We've had our year of reflecting on the challenges of the spending review, facing up to those challenges and putting in place some plans. Now's the time to go and turn those plans into reality. I think many forces have felt, and indeed our agency, the NPIA, has felt that the savings in year one have actually, if anything, done us good. It's been a very healthy exercise for policing to get to grips with a real sharp focus on its costs. Moving forward now, however, it's not going to be so easy, and I think the real challenge is to deliver effective policing services, making improvements where we can, and mitigating what will be hard savings to deal with over the remainder of the spending review period.
I think the main challenges for me as a British police chief are the sheer scale of the uncertainty and change taking place strategically. At this moment in time, the Serious Organised Crime Agency is going to be replaced by the National Crime Agency. We've not yet got the leadership of that determined, yet a year has elapsed since Bill Hughes left soccer. We've got the National Police Improvement Agency, which is being dismantled and will cease trading, so to speak. It never was a quango and it isn't a quango, and of course the government have now recognised there are essential core elements of its functions that can't be dispensed with, but they're not sure what to do with it. Forces are having to reduce budgets very significantly, and we recognise the wider sort of financial situation confronting the country. But I think all chief officers are apprehensive about the idea of cutting such significant sums of money out of policing without having an impact on operational policing. For the workforce, and policing is made up of our people, of course, the workforce are deeply uneasy, police officers and police staff alike. The Windsor Review is a fundamental challenge to well established terms and conditions and so on. The Hutton Review in the background on pensions. So when you take all those together, I think the scale of the change and the uncertainties currently running and will continue to run for many months to come probably represent a huge strategic risk to policing. We will come through. As I've said previously, we've been policing for a long time. Humberside has been policing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 176 years without fail. I'm into my 34th year as a Chief Constable. I'm on to my 15th Home Secretary. So we have adapted, we recognise liberal democracy, priorities and policies change, and the service has been very good, I think very adaptable at the same time. But my personal experience as a Chief at this moment in time is it's a scale of the changes taking place simultaneously without a clear understanding about what the end game is meant to look like. That's, I think, is the cause of unease at this time, and that's going to be the biggest challenge for the next 12 months.
Well, there are a number that will clearly come to light in the next few months, and many of those I've covered in my speech at conference today. The first one really is around leadership and training. There's the wider issue of leadership in the service and whether the service can produce its own leaders of the future, and that's the direct entry debate that no doubt we'll hear more about in the next few days. But also the wider issue of leadership and training and the need for a professional body to oversee the development of leadership and training for the future for the service once the MPIA has gone in 12 months' time. So leadership will be a really key issue. Another one is pay and conditions. The Windsor Review, Part 1, is currently at the Police Arbitration Tribunal. The outcome of that will have a significant impact, particularly on frontline officers, or certainly on more junior officers in the service. And that will be a financial impact that could potentially lead to officers leaving the service, and that would be a huge loss. The investment we've made in training officers will be lost if, as a result of the Windsor Review, they decide to find alternative employment. So that's a real concern for us. The next stage of the Windsor Review looks at a whole wide range of issues. I've already mentioned direct entry, but again, depending on how the Home Secretary decides to proceed with the recommendations that Tom Windsor decides is going to be really important. Another issue for the next 12 months is police and crime commissioners. Should the bill be passed that's been discussed in Parliament at the present time, then we already know that the elections have been deferred from April through to November. Whether that means that PCCs might never happen, who knows? But I know that this current government is determined that PCCs will replace police authorities in the future. I suppose the critical issue is going to be when, but there's a very good chance that by next November we will be operating under a very different governance arrangement within the police service, and there are some risks attached to that, and they're risks that we've voiced in the past. Hopefully the protocol and the bill will make it clear that the operational independence remains firmly at the door of chief constables, but there is a real risk of politicisation of the police if the handling of PCCs isn't done correctly. Finally, the biggest challenge I think for the service for the next 12 months is having a clear vision. There's lots of police reform going on across the service in different pockets, but it doesn't feel like it's joined up. So what we've got at the moment is it's almost like having a jigsaw full of pieces but without a picture on the box that we're working to. And so there's some sort of vision for the service, and if we're not going to get that direction from the Home Office, then it's the responsibility of the service to actually come up with a vision for the future. And the comments that Tim Brain was making recently about the need, is it the time for another operational policing review? Well, if that develops a vision for the service, then yes it is, because actually we do need some real clarity about what it is we want to be in the future. Do we want to be a force? Do we want to be a service? Are we going to be focusing purely on arresting people, or are we going to concentrate on the neighbourhoods and the work that's done in neighbourhoods? What's our relationship with the CJS, the criminal justice system, going to be like in the future? So there's a whole lot of issues that need some clarity for us as a service. And if, as I say, if we're not going to get that direction from the Home Office, from the government, then we need to be making sure that we come up with the right vision for the future of the service.
I think for me, it's for ACPO, the Superintendents Association and the Federation to have confidence in what we do, to show unity, and yet also to accept some of the change that's coming towards us.
In a nutshell, implementing the financial cuts, responding to the changes that will begin to come on board as a result of police and crime commissioners in about 12 months' time, the continuing challenge of facing an international terrorism threat, making sure that the service can confidently assert its own efficiency and effectiveness in public media and before politicians, and to maintain the integrity of its own leadership by ensuring that it continues to recruit and train officers through to chief officer rank.